I do believe peace is possible.
But you have to work at it.
We have to look at peace sort of like the way we look at hope. We need to find a belief in it.
We all have to come together to make that happen. It doesn't just happen on its own.
I think you have to have an element of respect for each other when it comes to this, because peace is not something that's a given.
There's way too many forces in power right now that are like pro, not peace.
We look at our politics and we just see fractures. We see the opposite of what we think more peaceful possibilities might look like.
Especially where we are now in this time in history, where democracy and human rights are being called into question almost every day. Things are being eradicated and substituted.
We look at our screens, we look at our news sources, we look at our media.
We're getting sound bites, we're getting TikTok, we're getting Zoom, we're getting Instagram to death. What is the real truth behind this? And that's where it's a person's responsibility on themselves to actualize and realize what is real for them.
Both peace and violence and conflict create spaces. They impact the spaces in which we live and in which people's everyday lives happen in. But art also changes those spaces. And so art has the ability to impact a space and to create spaces that have more peaceful possibilities.
It is a different role to be an artist when you're talking about peace. I think you can present it in a way that's it's outside of politics, it's outside of a policy.
You make people look at something and think about it and make people question things. When people are involved in art, you give them a specific time frame and reference that you are actually focusing their attention on what they're thinking about through what you're presenting.
And you can hit at people's emotions and it can bring people together.
And that's the role of an artist, is to make people aware of everything that's going on and not be just focused on yourself, but focused on everything else at the same time.
All the music I create, I try to make with the intention of awareness of stuff that will help bring people to peace.
I have songs about valuing collectivism over individualism. It demonstrates how these small acts that everyone can be part of is what actually drives change.
My artwork is based on Ukrainian culture, which, as we know, in the past year has been a lot of focus in the media on it, and it's the questioning of the validity of existence for me. What I'm doing is I'm presenting my art as a form of communication for people to realize that there are other cultures out there in the world that you have to learn about.
Peace-building activist John Paul Lederach talks about building a web of relationships that includes people that aren't just like me. We see it in divided societies like Northern Ireland, Cyprus, Somalia, where people who have these deep divisions find an ability to make relationships in their everyday lives.
I might not agree with an opinion that you have, but I'm going to listen to you, and then we're going to have a conversation.
Different voices are heard, right? And Hillside, in particular, is a festival that has many different sounds come to us, right? And many different ideas and thoughts, and just a coming together of different voices.
For instance, yesterday we were on a stage with Namgar, a beautiful band playing traditional Mongolian music, and we were there with Sultans of String, and they didn't speak much English, and I don't speak any Mongolian, but the music transcended all of that, and we were having really deep communication on stage. And people could see that, and people could see how, even if we come from very different backgrounds, we can work together to create a beautiful piece of art. And that's a model that we can show our leaders and show how it's done. It sounds corny and people say it all the time, but music really is the international language. So it's a way of being able to learn from each other and grow with ideas that come from around the globe.
It's not a given that we acknowledge somebody's culture, but go and actively learn about it. And I think once you realize that there are universal truths with everyone, it draws everybody closer together. And when you draw people close together, it becomes a unit, and that unit is our world peace system.
I write about my grandmother. I write about how she suffered from problems with rage. So I examine her life a bit and where that rage came from. And some of those roots are like in misogyny, and how it affected like generational trauma from what she experienced. And I look at it also from like a universal point, like how many other people were affected the way my grandmother was affected, in a sense of like forgiveness and understanding.
Yeah, we can talk about reconciliation all day long. We can talk about forgiveness. It has to be embodied. You know, to forgive someone must be embodied, but also to seek an apology has to be embodied as well. And I think that's an incredibly important part of a peace process, is the truth of what has happened, understanding it, but then how we can move forward from that. And I think ultimately that should end in forgiveness. Oftentimes when we talk about peace agreements, we'll talk about them as like the peace of the grandchildren. I can't see my children playing with your children, but I could see potentially my grandchildren and your grandchildren being friends and moving towards a more side-by-side relationship.
We're guiding the next generation to thinking about each other, to having empathy for each other and compassion, and to see multiple perspectives, how to be active citizens, how they can live together. We know that every infant is completely innocent and can be raised to be peaceful. We try to toughen them up, and we try to say that we don't value that empathy, when really we should see that as their skill. If you look around, like adults, we're still those people. Every adult is still that innocent person. Just sometimes we have some unlearning to do.
The everyday is the most important part of building peace. For me, living a life of that involves humility, that involves sort of a political, philosophical, social imagination or curiosity to be able to live amongst difference, and a sort of a humble curiosity to want to understand other people's perspectives is a really important part of bringing peace into my own life.
I think starting with yourself first, finding peace for yourself will help you be able to find peace with other people. I try to meditate once a day, or take time where I'm not having a lot of thoughts, or make sure I stay on track with the mission of moving towards world peace.
I think something that we can all do in our lives is just really in a hyper-local way, reach out to people in our community, look for opportunities to create community where you are, whether it be say hi to the person on the elevator, or help someone with their bags, or reach out to someone who seems like they're lonely or they're not connected.
Well, I think it's something we have to be able to imagine. And I think that is an important part of pushing delusions to the side, seeing through them, seeing past them, and working towards that sort of ultimate goal of a better humanity for forever.
I know it sounds small and tiny, but when you smile at somebody, you make their day. You make somebody happy. They might be having a bad moment. Just acknowledge it. Everybody has a personal story, and everybody has situations going on. When you smile at somebody, it's like you're showing them respect and saying, you know what? I'm a human being too. You're a human being. Let's get along on this planet. That's a small little thing that we can all do every day just to make everyone feel better.
Go out in the world with a lot of love, a lot of your default interaction is love and care for other people. Make the assumption that people are good and that they're trying their best, and lose the judgment, lose that fear of being judged.
Have hope, see the hope in other people, see the good in other people. Let's not focus on those differences, but those commonalities that we all share, because there are a lot of them.
As people, we can acknowledge that we're all just one people on a planet. There's no planet B for us, that we can work harder at what we're striving for. And I think that's what peace is about.
Start with loving yourself and knowing that you deserve love. I think no matter how much hatred is out there, you can like love yourself and love others like much stronger than anyone's hatred or judgment could be.
Peace is for all of us, as my T-shirt says. It's there for us, and we just have to keep working on it.